yeah.
Candid
I'm really excited for you to check out this interview.
Candid with Kimbra.
Most of you that watch Candid with Kimbra know that I love to laugh and I love to have a good time. I can be serious too, though. Today's subject is going to be a little bit more somber, and it's a subject that's a little dark about war, American history, world history, a time that was very tumultuous in the world. And America had a very dark period of time that, we did some things that we're not proud of, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about loyalty, reinventing yourself, patriotism, all things that are still happening today. I hope you enjoy this podcast, even though it's about a more serious subject, but it's something that needs to be talked about and needs to be remembered, even though it is a terrible time in American history. I'm interested to find out more about it. I'm really looking forward to speaking with David Kiyoshi Tom about his film, and I'm going to ask him if I'm saying the name right, but it's Kintsukuroi. Kintsukuroi. It's the art of repairing broken pottery. It sounds like a beautiful title for this film, and please welcome my guest, David Kiyoshi Tom.
Welcome to my podcast, where I'll be speaking with guests candidly about interesting topics. So join me on Candid with Kimbra.
Today's guest is David Kiyoshi Tom. David Kiyoshi Tom, right?
Yeah.
And the name of the film that we're going to be talking about is Kintsukuroi. Did I say that right?
Kintsukuroi, yeah.
Okay, good.
Very good.
Thank you. Domo arigato.
Yeah.
Do you speak any Japanese? I don't know.
None.
None?
It's a funny story though, because my family was in the camps.
Right.
They didn't want us to speak Japanese.
Oh, well, yeah, that's...
Right.
Well, wait,
Because,
your family, we're going to get to all this, but
yeah.
you weren't obviously in the camps because you're young.
No, my mother was born in Topaz Camp.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we're going to talk about all this. But first of all, I want to say that Diana Wang introduced us, right? So I've never actually met David in person, but Diana Wang's always very kind and tries to make connections with people.
Yeah, she's a great person.
I know. Did you know her from being up north, or how do you know her?
I've done a lot of acting and modeling with her through the years. We met when we were very young, actually, on photo shoots.
Right.
In the Bay Area, yeah, we've been at it a long time. It's scary to think. It's like, wow, we've actually been doing this a long time.
I know. I've known her a long time as well, because I'm half Chinese on my mom's side, so I knew I wanted to meet the Chinese community that was doing film and acting, and my friend, gosh, I can't even remember his last name now, but he said, you got to meet Diana and her sister Jude. They're so tied into the whole community. Have you ever met Jude before, her sister?
Briefly. She's never around. Not in the Bay Area, though. Yeah.
Yeah, she's working. I think she's down here in LA now because she's working a lot on directing. But she directed me in a stage production years ago. And so we love Diana because she's so, what's the word? She's so...
giving.
Huh?
Right. She's a very giving person.
Giving and encouraging.
She's very thoughtful. She connects people.
Yes. I think she likes it. I mean, she secretly likes it. I don't know about
She's good at it.
Yeah. Because she gets it. She's very happy when people connect,
Yeah.
So I actually went to her wedding and I sang at her wedding. So that was kind
of,
I know, right? What an honor.
Yeah, it is.
But so anyway, she showed me, or actually, I don't remember, she sent it to me privately or I saw it on her page, but I just thought, what an interesting idea. So you're an actor, and so you always wanted to do this project, or you just thought it was something that should be told, or?
Yeah, what's funny is that Diana hooked me up with the project.
Oh.
I mean, talk about full circle, right?
Wow.
So she's really good friends with the director, writer, producer, Kerwin Burke. And he...
Oh, Kerwin. Did you say Kerwin?
Kerwin, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen his name. I don't know if we actually met, but I've seen his name.
He's done a lot of stuff online.
Mm-hmm.
He had an online TV show and things like that. And so Diana said, hey, they're looking to cast this one last role. I think you'd be right for it, but, reach out to Kuro and see what's up. So I did, and I read for him, and he's like, okay, this is great. You're the right age, but you look too young. So
I get that all the time.
That's all. Hey, that's what you get for being Asian,
right?
But, so I said, well, I had farmers in my family, so I get it. I mean, I feel it. I lived it, and so it was easy for me to really become the character. It wasn't a stretch in that sense, and so I just really wanted to be involved with it once I heard about the project, because it's really about my family's experience as well.
Oh, okay. So I thought you wrote all this and stuff. So you just came in as an actor, but you
Yep.
realized that your family had gone through this, so you could relate to the whole thing.
Yeah, and that's why it was so important for me to be part of the project, and then I'm doing everything I can to get the word out, because it's so important that these stories get told, because they're not taught in high school history or even college classes. It's a real stain, I think, on American history, and so it's just not taught.
Really? Is that true? It's not taught?
It's not taught at all in high schools. It's really a shame. And because it's something that, the American government perpetrated on their citizens.
Sure.
They took away their rights without due process,
right.
And they put them in these concentration camps, and they kept them there for years.
Wait, let me ask you something, though. Is it called concentration camps or is it internment camps? Because I just want to know.
It's internment if you want to basically whitewash it, right? But I think people, and also the Japanese even accepted that term because it sounded less harsh.
Got it.
And concentration camps sort of have a negative connotation because of the Holocaust, but they're concentration camps. They're just, and there was, they weren't death camps.
Sure.
But so they are, but technically they are concentration camps, but they were called internment camps because it was just an easier sell.
Right. It just sounds like, we're just holding you for a little while or something.
Yeah. I mean, and they sold it to the Japanese, and even while the Japanese said, oh, it's okay, we'll be right back. It's only an internment camp. They had no idea what they were getting into. Yeah. They didn't know they were going to these desert locations with barbed wire and guns pointing at them. Yeah.
I know, and I know you talked about this on the trailer that you did, or not trailer, but that interview that you did that you sent to me it was a news.
Yeah, for Channel 2.
Yeah. And you brought up a good point about how most Asians and specifically Japanese are very stoic people and don't like to, bring up negative, especially feelings. But do you think there were some Japanese? Did your mom tell you this, or anybody in your family, that they did, rise up, or they did get angry, or did they all just kind of like fall in line?
No, the funny thing is, the majority of people actually just fell in the line because they didn't really think, they were sort of oblivious in that sense to the fact that, hey, it's the U.S. government; they're not going to do anything bad. They believed that it was for the best for the country, so they were willing to accept the hardship. And then there was the backlash as well. I mean, there was people that protested, right? There's people that didn't sign the pledges, the loyalty pledges. There was people who essentially objected to signing up. So there was a little bit of everything, really. A lot of it depended, obviously on the age of the person and their experience having grown up in America, I think. But and there was a point where the U.S. government was going to let people go back to Japan, and a few people did. And then came back and became U.S. citizens again. So essentially, recaptured their U.S. citizenship.
Wow. So
yeah, it's kind of a murky situation in that sense.
How many years was it exactly that they were in the camps?
It's different. It's stretched because it happened over time. So it's about 3 years or so. But what people don't realize is that the camps stayed operating even after the war was over. So there's certain camps closed at certain dates because the people in the camps had nowhere to go back to. And a lot of the women, their husbands had died in the war. So they really had nowhere to go. So it's really interesting. Like there's no sort of set date. There's no date that's celebrated. Oh, this was the closing of the camp kind of thing.
How many were there? Do you know?
I think there's 12.
12. Mostly in California, though, right?
Well, actually, there was essentially the only one in California. I think was really Tule Lake, and it's kind of really at the Oregon border.
Mm-hmm.
There was the sort of the transit centers were in California,
Mm-hmm.
but all the other ones were like in Utah, Idaho, Colorado, Arkansas.
Oh, see, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I didn't know they were all over the United States.
Arizona. They're hard not. They're based in places where nobody would want to live, right? They're deserts or high mountain areas where they didn't really need fences because if you escaped, you weren't going anywhere. You know, you'd starve or die of the exposure before you made it anywhere. They were, yeah.
Did people actually? It sounds like a dumb question, but did people actually die in the camps? I mean, were there any ones that?
There was a few shootings from the guards, but one of those instances is addressed in our film actually. So our film is what we call historical fiction. It's based on a lot of things that occurred in various camps,
right,
and to various people, and it's sort of a story woven together to cover as much ground as possible to tell the story of an entire culture, basically, ethnic group of people. So I mean, to do it right, the film would be 5 hours long in 2 parts, kind of thing. But so there were some of those shootings. There were. The thing is, these camps were cities. They were huge. 8,000-10,000 people. Poston in Arizona had 3 of them. They had 3 different cities, basically. So a lot went on. There was not supposed to be dogs. There wasn't supposed to be alcohol. There weren't supposed to be cameras in these camps, but there was all of those things. So not all the camp commanders were necessarily evil. They were just doing their job as part of the armed forces. So some camps were different than others. Yeah. And Tule Lake in California was the one that was more like a prison camp. And
that's the one that parts of your family were at.
Right? No, my family was in Topaz, Utah, which is just in the middle of the desert. But Tule Lake is where they sent the no-no boys, the people that did not sign the loyalty pledge, even though they're U.S. citizens, and they basically sent them there, and some of them went to federal prison. But Tule Lake was it had a little bit of everything, but it was where they sent the people they considered like really criminals.
I see. What do you mean that they thought was, you said like criminals? What do you mean like they thought?
Well, if you didn't sign the loyalty pledge, that they're called no-no boys because you signed no. Mm-hmm. And so that meant you were essentially, the thing is, by saying no didn't mean you were for Japan. Mm-hmm. It just means you were mad at America. And so, but they looked at you as somebody that was essentially a threat to the U.S. So they put you in Tule Lake, where, again, it was a much tougher prison than most of the other camps.
Right.
And there was families in Tule Lake, but there was also another section of it that wasn't family-oriented, whereas most of the camps was all families.
Right. So I know the one in California is still there. I mean, you can go visit it, right? It's kind of...
Yeah, Manzanar's there, I think. Topaz, well, not there. They have parts of them there. Topaz is there. Tule Lake is there. Like, they're memorial sites.
Got it.
And they rebuilt some of the barracks just so people could see what it was like.
Sure.
But like Poston is still there, but nothing's there left. But the ground is still there. Here's the thing: is these places still exist because nobody's ever going to build there.
Sure.
Right? There's nothing. You're literally in the middle of nowhere. There's no water. There's no power. There's no sewer. There's no stores. You're, like I always joke, you're an hour from nowhere.
Yeah.
So nobody's ever going to live in any of these places. That's why these places still exist, because they're just lying fallow in the deserts.
So tell me again, what family members you had that were at the camp?
So my grandmother was she was at Topaz, and she had my mother and my mom. There's 4 in my mom's side, but 2 of them were born in Topaz, Utah. So my grandmother got married the day before she was getting shipped off, so that way her and her husband, my grandfather, would not get separated. But he ended up being in the service. He was in MIS, So he only came back to the camps when he was on leave.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I
So
mean,
he
and
thought
that was common.
okay. So he
You
and
know.
his new wife were sent to this the same camp,
Yeah.
but then shortly after he was sent off to fight on the side
Yeah.
of the Americans,
Yeah.
right? And so that's kind of confusing, and I think you guys talk about that in the movie too, like
Yeah.
you know, because
We
of
address it. So we address all the things that people talk about, but we can't go too deep on them because, again, the movie would just be too long. Each of these topics is a movie unto itself. And the thing is, a lot of people have done documentaries on a lot of this stuff, but documentaries, it's hard to you're not telling a story. And so that's why Kerwin wanted to do it as a full-length feature film, because he's a storyteller. He's a journalist by trade. And he'd been collecting all these families, different family stories through the years. And slowly but surely, over a span of 10, 20 years, he wrote the script. I mean, the script sort of came to him in waves. And
Hmm.
and then he finally got to the point where he was ready to start shooting stuff, and COVID hit. So he did a little bit of he did a sort of like a trailer proof of concept short before COVID hit. And then COVID hit, and then he had to basically start all over after COVID. And so the movie process itself was, 5 to 7 years. It was a long time.
Did he have producers with, or did he produce it himself?
He did. Yeah, he has it's himself and Kehlani, who's actually the star. She's the protagonist in the film. She's also one of the producers.
Okay, yeah, her name is, let's see, I don't have her name.
Kehlani Couture.
What is it?
Kehlani Couture. I don't know. She should be on the IMDb page. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, no, I just
yeah.
have the invitation for the San Fernando Valley. I didn't even
Oh,
know
yeah.
there was a Japanese American community center there in, is it Pacoima? I think it's Pacoima.
Yeah, I didn't know either.
Yeah.
I mean, again, the Japanese community is very insular, right? They tend not to reach out to other ethnicities and cultures, but that's changed over time because there's been no Japanese immigration. So the people, the Issei and Nisei generations, they're passing away, and their kids are intermarrying. Like my sisters, none of them married a Japanese guy.
Right.
So what happens is, the gene pool essentially gets diluted, right? It's not strictly ethnic Japanese anymore.
Sure.
And so that's what's happening to a lot of these Japanese centers. And so their mission is changing, right? Because there aren't these Japanese youth anymore coming into the cultural centers. It's mostly these senior citizens.
And also in Japan and actually other countries too, as well as America, there's a group of like older people that are going to outlive because people aren't having kids as much. So
right.
Younger people are not, it's going to be like older people and no younger kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and there's just no Japanese immigration into America. There hasn't been for 15, 20 years.
Wow. That's interesting, huh?
Yeah. So it's all the immigration into America is, the other Asian countries. So.
Yeah, that's true. So your family, when you were growing up, did they talk about this subject a lot or at all? I mean, this time period, did they ever talk about it to you?
That's the funny thing. This is another again, this is typical of Japanese families. They didn't speak at all about it.
Really?
And because they felt that it was, if they spoke about it, that they would be burdening their children and their grandchildren. So they kept it all in. They never talked about it. And if you talk to a lot of Japanese people in the third and fourth generations, fourth and fifth even, their grandparents never talked about it. And they basically, again, they took it to their grave with them, and they felt that they were doing us a service by doing that, when actually they were actually, if you look back in retrospect, it hurt us in the sense that we didn't know our own history. We didn't know why our grandparents acted the way they acted. We could sort of make an assumption, but we never heard them speak about it, so we didn't know their feelings. And then, so I asked my aunt. I said, "Hey, Grandpa and Grandma never said anything about it." I said, before he passed away, when he was older, did he ever talk to you guys about it? And she said, well, he started to open up a little bit, and she said he was very bitter. And I was like, wow, so he carried that bitterness around with him for over half of his life.
God,
But,
I'm surprised. Did he die at,
you know,
how old was he when he died?
he was in the 70s. He was healthy, but he died in a car crash.
Oh, terrible.
And yeah, and which wasn't his fault. He was just sitting in traffic. But so the fact that he was carrying this around with him for so long, but he also carried his discharge card in his wallet with him because he was very proud of it. So there was a real conflict that he had that he never spoke of.
Oh, that's how
And
sad.
yeah, and I was his only grandson. And so it's interesting though that he never said anything to me. I have like he had a pocket watch he saved for me that he wanted to give to me when I had my first child, but he passed away before that occurred. And so my grandmother gave it to me and told me that he had been saving this for me. And I was recently given his class ring for his graduation from UC Berkeley by my aunt. She asked me to keep of it.
That's so sweet. I mean, I'm a big believer in, which is not an Asian thing at all, but like talking about things and getting it out of your system, because I feel like it causes stress and which can cause illness, So
yeah.
And I know
we're aware of that now, right? But they thought the exact opposite.
Right.
And so it's interesting, just to sort of do a what if scenario. Like, what if they actually sat down and told us about this when we were kids? How would we have reacted to them? And what sort of empathy we would have had for them, and what they endured, the hardships they went through, and how they persevered to overcome. My grandfather became a very successful businessman, and he was a graduate from UC Berkeley. But his diploma was mailed to him in the horse stalls at Tanforan Racetrack in San Mateo. So he never even got to walk through the ceremony. They mailed his diploma to him, and it was addressed to actually the horse stall where they were living before they were transported to Topaz.
Yeah, that's so sad.
That's crazy. And then my grandmother actually went back to college when she was 35. She went back to UC Berkeley and graduated from UC Berkeley at 35.
That's awesome. So did they ever participate, anybody in your family, I'm just curious, participate in that, gosh, what was that thing where everyone got money? It's called
the reparations.
Reparations, yeah. Did they participate in that?
So my grandparents, they got theirs. My aunts got theirs. My mom refused to take it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's interesting.
My mom was a 60s liberal rebel, and first woman expelled from our high school. We all went to
That's your mom? She was first. She was.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
For wearing jeans. She wore jeans to school.
That's so funny. My dad was kind of a hippie too, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah. But she refused. She goes, I was a child in the camps. My life was turned out the way it was supposed to turn out because my grandfather got out and got a job and was able to use his business degree. He was very fortunate. Their families lost their business, but they didn't lose their house. So they had something to sort of start with.
That's good.
But she just felt like she didn't want it. She didn't deserve it, she said. But
no, I kind of
everybody else I know took it.
Yeah. No, I believe that. I haven't had that situation, so I don't know if it really happened. Yeah. I don't know if I'd be a big enough person to like say no, but I kind of feel that way too, like your mom. If I wasn't the cause of something, like, why, but she was doing it from benefiting. But I also believe that why do we have to pay for things that our ancestors did? So it's another side of it,
Yeah. I mean, the thing about back when it occurred, it was $20,000, which seemed like a lot of money then even,
right.
But it really wasn't. You couldn't do anything with $20,000 when it occurred.
Sure.
And so, but for people who lost their businesses, their homes, their farms, all their cars, a lot of people lost everything. $20,000 is a pittance because they lost the generational wealth factor, right? Sure. They lost the opportunity to use their home as leverage to buy another home or whatever it may be.
Sure.
Right? They came home. They didn't have jobs. They had to rent a place now, or they had to try to buy a new place, things like that.
Sure.
So, and then people coming out of camps, if they're older, they had no way to rebuild their lives.
Right.
Because everything they had worked for was taken away. And so it ruined a lot of people's lives in that fashion, and $20,000 wasn't going to make amends for that.
That's true. I know.
So yeah,
They've had. I mean, I guess $20,000 now would be maybe $100,000. Like if you're inflation.
yeah,
Like 100. But even that, you know.
Yeah, and it's not even a down payment on a house.
Right.
Right. So and this was here's the other thing. It was well after the people had come back. So a lot of the people who were in the camps had already passed away.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like, oh, you come out of the camp, here's $20,000, go, here's a fresh start. It was, well after. So a lot of people had already passed away. And so that was some of the push behind it, was that a lot of the older people were passing away.
Sure.
And they just wanted to get them their reparation. And those people who really deserved it, because they lived through it. Yeah. They suffered through it.
That's true. That's true. I guess if they really, but like you said, your mom, well, sure, she was born in the camp, she said.
She was born, but she just said, I was just a child. It was my life. Again, she can't say whether it affected her life or not, but she left there when she was like 2.5, 3 years old. So she doesn't remember anything really. And she just said, if I was 10, maybe, but since I was 3, I'm okay with not taking it.
Good for your mom. She sounds like a very,
she's very, principled.
Exactly. She's got ethics and principles. How strange.
I call her stubborn, but.
Yeah. So what do you think about the movie? Do you think does it tell the story that you guys wanted to tell?
It does, and it's 2 hours and 9 minutes. And a lot of people say, oh, that's too long. It's too long. We're like, look, Scorsese makes 3-hour movies.
Right.
Coppola makes 4-hour movies, right? We laugh. But it's just, if the story's told well, the time just passes. You don't go, oh, wow. You don't look at your watch and go, how long have I been sitting here? The story moves along. And so you get caught up in the story and the time just passes. You don't realize you've been in the movie for 2 hours. And that's what good stories are, right? They're not time constrained. Like if you say, oh, well, I got to make an hour-and-a-half movie because that's a commercial. Well, then you're writing and you're shooting for something that's only going to be an hour and a half. And so which means you have to sacrifice a lot. And your thought process is different on how you go about shooting the film. And so Curran's philosophy is, let's shoot the story. We'll figure out how the time works out later in editing and post. And that's what he did. So the current cut is a little bit shorter than the original cut. We did some test screenings to see how it flowed and stuff. But yeah, so the 209 cut that is now is pretty much the way we could cut more if we had to get streaming or something of that nature. But it's good the way it is at 209.
So I know it's won at least one award I saw online, right?
Yeah, we won a bunch of different awards through submissions in film festivals. Mm-hmm. I don't even have a list of those. I'd have to look them all up. Mm-hmm. But it's nice because the film festivals we've been in have been very diverse. They're not just Asian film festivals.
Sure.
Because the thing about the film is, again, this wasn't the point when the film was finished, but it's really a cautionary tale of what can happen when you create others, right? When you other people and put them in this category, and see them as less than human, and see them as less than citizens when they are citizens, and they have the same rights as everybody else who's a citizen. And so it's funny, because of the political situation we're in, it's become incredibly relevant. Yeah. And it's just not something we thought of at the time. And again, when we started the process, this wasn't an issue. And so we've had a lot of crossover from not just the Japanese community. Like, we obviously are promoting it originally to the Japanese community because it's their story. But it's really started to cross over to all demographics, which is great. I mean, it's a lot of fun that way too.
That's what I talked about before you came on. I was just saying it's very relevant because you ask a lot of questions about, well, patriotism, loyalty, identity, right?
Exactly.
And starting over, because my theme for the podcast is like reinvention. And so after these people got out of the camps, they had to start over, and gosh, that must have been so hard.
Yeah.
Just,
Oh, yeah. And some people failed, and people what people don't realize is people who come back from war have PTSD, but so do people who are in those camps, right? Because they sometimes it's different if you go to jail, like a federal prison or something, because you know when you're getting out, you know what your charges are. The problem with the concentration camps for the Japanese citizens is they had no idea if they were ever coming back, right? So they were living their life literally day to day, not knowing if tomorrow was something was going to happen. They had no idea. A lot of them had no idea what was going on with their property, their houses, things like that. You know, people, they knew they had friends back, you know, where they lived and stuff like that. So that was okay. I mean, there was a lot of communication back and forth for a lot of people, but not for everybody. And so there was this uncertainness to life that people had, and it basically creates stress, right? And they came out, and a lot of people could not overcome that stress, that anxiety. You know, they alcoholics, and they just couldn't get their life together. And that's what happens to a lot of people. But it happened to an entire group, 120,000 people getting shipped off who are U.S. citizens without due process. I mean, that's a big chunk of the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, you know, at the time.
So America probably, because I know this is for most ethnic groups and racial groups, that we have the most Japanese American. We have the most Japanese outside of Japan, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's in United States.
And you pretty much say all of them are in California. I mean, pretty much, right? I mean, there's obviously some on the East Coast, but there's essentially zero in the middle of the country.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. What does Kerwin want to do next with the movie? Does he want to get just wider distribution, like through streaming or something, or do you know?
I think we would like to get it on some streaming platform, out of the festival circuit, so that people could, one, become more aware of what the U.S. government did to its citizens. Because, you know, if you ignore history, you're doomed to repeat it, right?
Yeah, which it does anyway. Which it
does anyway. Right. But ignorance breeds ignorance, and so what's happened is that since nobody knows that this stuff occurred in our past, and a lot of the people who are in the camps are still alive, and they don't tell their story, right? Because like, oh, it's my story, nobody needs to know it. That's the Japanese way. But we're the exact opposite. As a younger generation, we're like, no, this was a travesty. This was, you know, a tragedy. This was basically our civil rights being taken away, and it's happening again today. So we want the story to get out as much as possible. So we keep trying to learn. You know, it takes time, right? It takes over and over and over that the U.S. government can do these things to its own citizens. And it's just, and so streaming would be ideal because we could get more distribution on it. And we'd have to think about, like, okay, if it's going to go, you know, streaming, what's the length it has to be, all those different things. So, and then there's obviously footage that we didn't use. So, you know, if we had to, we could do something. But Kerwin, he thinks it's the way it pretty much is. He likes it.
How long did it take you guys to shoot it? How long?
Again, we shot it over a span of years.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So, like, people shot, again, some of the footage is actually from like 2019. They reused it. That's the nice thing about digital, right? You can clean things up.
Sure.
And then after that, it was because we were all volunteers. It was, hey, who's available this week to shoot this scene? So the scenes are shot totally out of order, which, you know, most movies are, but in this one, so we had to really make sure that, you know, there was a little continuity in editing because of that. But it was, you know, it was shot over years, like 3 years.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I knew he was working on it all this time, but I didn't realize you actually shot it. I thought you maybe shot it over a period of a year or something, you know?
No, it was because it was, you know, shoot some here, edit it, you know, put music over it, all this different stuff. And plus the music, a lot of the music's, Kerwin, him and music director worked on together. And so they used music that was out of copyright. and they rewrote some lyrics on some of the songs and things like that. So
Got it. Oh, that's
so that took time as well.
yeah. Did you guys have a fairly okay budget, or was it super, super low?
No, super low actually. We always joke, there's the low budget films and there's no budget films. Ours was essentially no budget. He had a grant from the City of San Francisco Parks and Rec Department,
Good.
and which really got it off the ground. But he funded it out of his own pocket.
Oh wow! God. So I hope Kerwin makes his money back and then some.
Yeah. Well, again, originally he wasn't even concerned really about making his money back. He was concerned about telling a good story.
Yeah.
And getting these stories out,
Sure.
and getting it out there so that these people could see their own stories before they pass away. Because when we do the Q&As after the movies, there's always people who say, wow, that's my family story. Or, yeah, my family went through the same thing or something very similar. And we're like, yeah, right? And so it's really, like we say, it's a story of 120,000 people. Because that's how many went in the camps.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you guys are doing it now, because it's like with the Holocaust, I'm sure you've some references to that with similarities, but I know that the Holocaust, the people, there's not very many people left that were actually in the Holocaust. So
exactly.
So now it's the same with this time period. It's a similar time period.
Yeah. And those people overcame so that we could benefit from the fruits of their labor, if you think about it, right? If my grandfather hadn't come back and got his life going again, where would I be? Would I even be here? And so those kinds of things are really, that's why the stories have to be told, because there's an appreciation for the people that came before us, whose shoulders we stand on and who cleared the path for us today.
Like your grandfather was such an amazing guy to be in the, was it Air Force or
MIS? So he was. It's information system. So he was like interpreter. So yeah,
that's interesting. So
so they did a lot of stuff that they couldn't talk about.
Okay.
Well, here's the funny thing, right? They have like a top secret clearance, but they're Japanese Americans. And they're fighting the Japanese,
right?
But the Japanese American guys have top secret clearance.
Wow!
So it's funny. Gotcha. But the other thing is, my grandparents didn't speak Japanese, so they sent my grandfather to the language school at Monterey to learn Japanese, intensive Japanese.
That's a shame. I always feel like people, but I know back then, especially, it was like, we're going to learn English, and that's our, because we're going to be Americans, right? I just wish some parents would have been a little bit stricter about teach the language, because
exactly. They didn't want us to learn Japanese because their philosophy was, well, if they don't speak Japanese, this can never happen again because they're American.
Right.
And so you look back and go, wow, that's terrible. I wish I spoke Japanese.
I know, because it only helps you in every way if you know another language. But I know back in those days they would always, America is English only. So we need to speak English, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. And, and the child's brain is basically more, I wouldn't say, sharper, but sharper for lack of a better term, when they speak two languages.
Right. And it's like a sponge when they're younger,
Yeah.
Before 7, I think it's 6 or 7, you're just soaking up languages,
Yeah, exactly.
So this is going to come out on Friday, so it'll already have been playing. The screening will already have happened in the Valley and where Torrance. I think it's Torrance. Yeah, that's the one I'm going to go to. So, but by the time it comes out, maybe I'll put a link if there's future. Is there a website for the?
There is. We do everything pretty much on Facebook. It's just Kintsukuroi, the film. But what we're actually, again, these intimate screenings are fundraisers for our Japanese nonprofit partners here in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And so we're using it to go out in the community. Again, these are sort of intimate settings to show the people their story, right? And so they can appreciate it. And we'll come back at some point in time and do a full-on, theater screening and all these kinds of things. But that just takes time and effort that we have to just sit down and
Sure.
get that done. Yeah.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
excited. So hopefully, maybe Diana will come down and we'll have like
Yeah.
a little get together.
Yeah, well, and we'll try to get out more, like, we'll really reach out to like George Takei, Tamara Tamita, all the
Okay.
Japanese, actors and actresses in the community.
Sure.
Because again, this is their story as well. Like, I mean, George Takei had his play, right? So, and again, these are all, we want to do all these things while the Asian actors still have relevance as well, right?
And also, Little Tokyo, you could do something in Little Tokyo,
Yeah, well, maybe when the museum reopens, because right now it's under
Oh, it's under construction,
under
reconstruction.
construction. Yeah, they're refurbishing a lot of it.
Oh,
Maybe it's
wow.
part of the celebration.
Well, that would
Yeah,
be good if
so
they could if you guys could show the movie there or something
yeah,
to do with it.
yeah, and we're actually starting to work on our next film um, with the working title of I Company, because I Company was the company that was inside the 440. That's what basically the 442nd. And so, but it's not a war story. It's the story is kind of told in flashback. So it's really about the effects of the war, the life of the soldiers. And so
PTSD.
there's been movies and documentaries about the 442nd because those guys were heroic, the most decorated regiment, in the
You
history
said
of.
the 442nd, right?
Yeah, yeah. Their motto was "Go for broke,"
Mm-hmm.
and they were heroes. They were heroes to other soldiers. They were heroes to Japanese people. But that story's been told. And again, it's talked about, it's acknowledged, but it's just sort of as the 442nd. Those guys were awesome. They were heroes. But their personal stories haven't been told. And so Kerwin, being a storyteller that he is, wants to tell a story and help people understand what these guys really went through.
Wow. Good for him. Well, I should get to meet him because he sounds like an interesting guy.
Yeah, he'll be at the Twin screenings.
Oh, good. Well, maybe I'll
Yeah,
introduce myself in
yeah,
Torrance. But anyway, I want to
yeah,
thank you so much. I know you got to rest for your big
yeah.
screenings this weekend, right?
So yeah. Well, thanks for having me. It's great. I
Oh,
mean,
you're welcome. Yeah,
I love I
I
love
thought,
talking shop.
yeah. I mean, I thought, when I emailed you, I was like, oh, I should have him on the podcast. I know it's going to come out after this weekend, but still, there's going to be a lot of future things and maybe just
Yeah,
spreading the word about the movie.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's because again, and what's great is it's a story with essentially an all Asian cast. I mean, obviously there's some non-Asians in it.
Sure.
That crosses cultural lines, and so it's not a story just for Japanese people because there's only Japanese people in it,
Sure.
right? That's the best part. And they're all actually I'm pretty sure if I can think of all the main actors are all Japanese. I'm the only one that's half Chinese.
Oh, you're half Chinese. I didn't know
I'm
that.
half Chinese, half Japanese.
Oh.
So
Wait, what side is she? Chinese side? The mom?
my father's Chinese.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's my stage name is David Kiyoshi Tom because there was a David Tom in SAG. So I use David Kiyoshi Tom, and people see it and they go, "Hey, that's a Chinese and a Japanese name." I'm like, "Yeah, my
It
parents."
does happen. It does happen, folks.
It's funny though. In my generation, it's very rare
Really?
because the Chinese and the Japanese do not.
Yeah, I know. There was that.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So
because my mom, she had a lot of Japanese friends, but but the generation before her definitely was very, not everybody, but a lot of anti-Japanese because of
yeah,
the invasion in Taiwan.
yep, exactly.
So, but my mom was really open-minded, so she was like,
Yeah. Well, the Japanese did some terrible things to the Chinese.
I know, but funnily enough, my mom always says that, but she was, she didn't really experience any of the war stuff. So, but
Yeah,
she always says nice things to say about Japanese people. But they did the Japanese from Japan did a lot of bad things to the Koreans too. So they're,
yeah.
just the whole.
Oh, and the Filipinos. Yeah, they were ruthless. They were equal opportunity tyrants.
That's true,
Yeah,
and it's you always have to separate the people that rule the country from the actual
right.
people from the
Exactly.
country.
Exactly.
That's like with Americans. A lot of people think that we're one way, but it's not the government isn't the people,
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
that
exactly.
sense,
Yeah.
So anyways, well, it was really great having you. And so
Yeah, thanks for
stop
having
for
me.
your big weekend, and I will see you on Sunday.
Okay, sounds good. We'll see you then.
Okay, have a good night. Thank
Okay,
you.
you too. Thanks. All right, bye.
Bye.
Candid with Kim.